All right, I think we need to have a chat. I've been thinking long and hard about it, and I have a question for you. How's your transition game? No, I'm not talking about basketball where you're transitioning the ball up and down the you know basketball. I'm not going to get into it. No, what I'm really talking about is scene transitions. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you want to turn your transitions from something like this to something more like this, it's going to make a really, really big impact to your audience engagement.
Because I said so.
Hi, my name is Max. I am your gaming and streaming veteran, and let's go ahead and get your transitions going in the right direction. Let's get into it. All right, so just a couple of housekeeping things. As I do stream on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to come watch me play games and chat, maybe. Also, if you get at the like button, that would be amazing because I become more famous and popular, and that's what we want. All right, so we're not going to be able to talk about this all in one video today, so we're going to actually split this up into two videos, and the first one is actually going to be about building a simple stinger transition. Yes, we could do a swiping thing or a closing door thing, but we're actually going to do something a little bit different that's actually a little bit cooler in my opinion, where we're going to take some of our branding, aka our logo, and we're going to make it spin around, cover our screen, and transition us smoothly into a new scene. All right, with that being said, let's cut the chit chat and let's get started. Okay, so first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go to Best Buy. We're going to need to buy a $1,000 MacBook, and we're going to need to download and pay for After Effects, and then we'll be good to go. No, seriously, we're going to need to actually use a program called Davinci Resolve, and that's a free piece of software on Windows, and you can also get it on Mac if you're on there. All right, so once you get into Davinci Resolve, you're going to be presented with a screen like this. Basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using primarily two tabs. We're going to be using the Edit tab down here, and then we're going to be using the Fusion tab down here as well. So before we get started, you need to make sure you have two things. You need to make sure you have a transparent alpha logo. So if you don't have a transparent logo, I will actually provide some links down below where you can use those resources to not only get an alpha logo, but make a circle crop of your logo if you don't want to buy any extra software or anything like that. There's plenty of free resources on the internet. All right, so the next thing you're going to need is some sort of sound effect to go with your transition. The only setting you need to change with Davinci Resolve is this. You need to go down to the cog wheel here. You need to go and set your timeline frame rate to 30 frames per second. That's very important. I'll show you why here in just a minute. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to import our media. So if you don't know how to do that, you're going to right click on the media pool and you're going to go to import, and it's going to take you to some files, and you're going to pick your image or your logo that you want to use for this transition. If you have a sound effect already, let's go ahead and add that. We're not going to use it quite yet. That's going to be at the end, but we're going to go ahead and get it in here the same exact way by importing media. Okay, so once you have all your media in your media pool, we're going to drag the PNG file to the timeline. And I picked by far the best logo on the planet. I'm just saying, I may be biased. All right, so next what we're gonna do is we're going to look at our timeline here, and we're gonna see, okay, well, we've got about a little over 4 seconds worth of time for our image. So we wanna actually back that down to 3. So about here, right? So we wanna be about 3 seconds, right? So if you can't tell, it's right up here as well. It tells you if it's 3 seconds. You may have some different number variation. You might have to adjust some things in DaVinci if that's the case, but it should be about 3 seconds. All right, so now that we've got our logo shortened up to 3 seconds, we're gonna go ahead and turn this into a compound clip. This is very important. So we're gonna right click on the image. We're gonna go to new compound clip. It doesn't matter, you can just leave it saying compound clip 1. Okay, so now that we got our compound clip, we're gonna go over to the Fusion tab, and then that is right here at the bottom. Alrighty, so now that we're at our Fusion tab, it's a little bit finicky in terms of how you can navigate it, but for the most part, you just want to understand that you should, if you've done everything right, you should have a median 1, which is your input, and a media out, which is your output. And you should see your logo up here, and there should be nothing but this checkerboard looking thing around it, okay? Something that helps me a lot when I'm navigating Fusion is we're gonna change this to a grid format. So to do that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna right click here. We're going to go to Arrange Tools, and we're going to change the Arrange Tools to Grid. What that does is it makes it more of a locked movement instead of it being like a loosey-goosey weird movement as before. All right, so the next thing after we make it a grid is we're going to right click again. We're going to go to options and we're going to change this to a, I can't even pronounce that, an change this to the O pipes. That's what I call it. So after you've done that, we're going to straighten them out and we should be good. We're not going to add a bunch of fusion nodes, but I just like to do that just for simplicity purposes if I need to come back later. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a transform node. Transform node is located right here. So we're going to drag that down to here. After we have our transform node, we're going to shift and we're going to click and we're going to drag it. So you should see the lines turn blue and yellow, and then we're going to drop it. So now they're all connected. All right, so the next step we're going to do is we're going to click onto our transform node. And then if you're done everything right, you should see a bar that goes from 1 to 90 here. Okay, so a quick note is that when you're looking at this, you need to figure out what your center point is. The midpoint is actually going to be right here at 45. All right, so the next thing you want to do is once you're at the frame 45 on the timeline here, you want to actually find your pivot point. So what the pivot point is this circle with an X in the middle of it. And this is basically where you're, when the logo is popping toward you in your face, it's that's what people are going to see. So if you have some sort of writing or like a picture you want to be a part of the picture that you want to be centered in the screen, this is where you will kind of choose what that is. So for this example, we're going to choose Pikachu's nose right there. So we want his nose, we actually want the top of his mouth. I lied. We're going to put the top of his mouth there. If you're having a hard time grabbing the X, I find it easy to just adjust this pivot line right here to adjust this X part to 0.3, and that drags it out so I can move it wherever I want. Okay, so now once we have the pivot figured out, we're going to actually go all the way to frame 1. So we're going to drag this red bar all the way down to frame 0, technically, or 1. After we dragged it over, we're going to start making our keyframes. If you need to know what keyframes are, I suggest going and Googling it because I don't really have a good definition for it. I just know it does stuff. So our keyframes are actually located here on the right side if you're not familiar with them. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 keyframes right here. We're going to do a center keyframe and then we're going to do a size keyframe. The only one we're really going to be adjusting right now is our size keyframe. All right, so on frame 0, we're going to actually drag the size all the way down to 0. After you've done that, we're going to drag the red bar back over to frame 45. And we're going to increase the size until it fills the whole screen. Right about there. So you see where Pikachu's face is still kind of in there. That's what we want. So after we've gotten our logo to a comfortable place, we want to go all the way to the end of the frames, to frame 90, and we want to drag it back to 0. After you've gotten to frame 90 and you've adjusted it to 0, we're going to go back to our center point here and we're going to type in 0.5 on the y-axis. All right, so if you've done everything right up to this point, you should have a logo doing this. So if you're dragging the red bar along the line here across the different frames, you should have a logo popping in and out. So we're going to press the play button and you'll see how it works. Great. One thing to keep in mind with this is Davinci can be a little slow, so just wait for it to render if you're having some issues. If you want to see the render process, just go over here. It will tell you on the red bar. Sometimes it'll affect your video or your logo playing or anything. Alrighty, so now if you're just comfortable with just this in and out effect, you can go ahead and skip to the next part of the video after the spin. Timestamps will be down below. But if you want to make your logo spin and do some animations like that, we're going to set that up now. All right, so to make the spin happen, we need to go back to frame 0 again. Okay, so now that we're on frame 0, we're back to the part where it's got a 0 size. We're going to actually go to the angle area here. And we're going to set a keyframe here. And we're going to type in -720, basically meaning 4 spins. So after we've got our -720, we're going to go all the way back to frame 90. We're going to set another keyframe. We're going to put +720. Alrighty, so after we've gotten our +720 keyframe on frame 90, we should have an animation like this, where it's spinning around. Yay, Pikachu! Alright, so one thing you may notice with your logo is that it may not be fully centered. So what we're going to do is, in my case, it's actually fine right now, but in your case, you may have to change the angle at the midpoint of 45 to 0, just to ensure that it's got that nice straight look when the spin is actually done. Alrighty, so now that we got our logo popping in and then we've also got our logo spinning, we're going to go ahead and smooth out this transition. So to smooth out this transition, we're going to go to the spline window. The spline window is located just above the inspector window here. So once we get into the spline window, you should be presented with something like this. We're going to make sure that the transform 1 node is completely checked. If it's not, check it. I'm going to press F4 to expand this, and then we're going to go here to zoom to fit. You may have to press it a couple times to get to the full vision of what we're trying to do here on this. All right, so once you see this, we're going to actually go ahead and we're going to highlight this, and we're going to press the smooth button. So just so you understand what we're looking at here, the red lines or the purple lines are all going to be what brings the image in and out, and the green line is what actually is spinning the image. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually have to just really move the green line. We may have to adjust the red line some. What we're going to do is we're going to drag this white line for the green line here, because the goal is to get a pause. If I didn't say that, but the goal is to get a pause. So we're going to actually drag that in, and we're going to drag this bottom one. We're going to drag it out just a little bit. What that's going to do is it's going to cause a slight delay at this middle point if it works right. So let's see what we got here. So it's not like a huge delay, but you see how it's slower coming in, and then it speeds up on the way out. So if you want to try and get a smoother or a firm stop, you may have to play around with it some. Like you can drag this out a little bit or in a little bit, and you can, drag these out a little bit. But I mean, like I said, it's all about how you want it, but just play around with the spline tab and really figure out where you want your image to pause or to kind of delay. But this is kind of what it should look like. You don't want to just spin incessantly. You want people to kind of try and read it a little bit. All right, so now we're done with the actual stinger part of this transition. So we're going to go ahead and exit out of here. We're going to press F4. We're going to press the spline button, and we're actually going to go back to the edit tab. So once we're at the edit tab, we want to actually take a look at this and see how it looks in real time. If you're having a little bit of a delay, you might have to make sure to render the audio, or you might have to make sure it renders and everything like that. But let's go ahead and press the loop, and we're going to see what this looks like. So yeah, that's how we got a spinning transition there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add our audio in. So just like before with the logo, we're going to drag this audio source onto our timeline. So you're going to want to line your audio up with your stinger transition just to ensure that it matches. So we're just going to play some of this audio to see what it sounds like. Alrighty, so Pikachu obviously says Pika Pika. It doesn't really make much sense, but hey, this is for demonstration purposes. So if it's a little bit too long, you can cut it, or you can just drag it around here on the timeline to match it up where you want it to start happening. But so what we're going to do is we're going to line it up just a little bit. So we're gonna play it. Alrighty, so now Pikachu is actually saying Pika. So once you get your audio figured out, you can go ahead and come in and you can use your little cut tool, and you can actually just come to the line and cut it and delete the excess. So this is what the end effect should look like. Oh. Alrighty, so that's our Pikachu. Okay, so to ensure that our audio stays in top quality, we're gonna have to make this another compound clip. This is very important. You're gonna highlight both the audio and the logo transition. We're going to right click, and we're actually going to go up here and make another compound clip, and it doesn't matter what it's named, just make them a compound clip. This is actually going to combine the clips, like I said, because we want to make sure that the audio doesn't get messed up in export. So like I said, it takes a minute to render. Just give it some time. All right, so once we get to the rocket ship or the export tab, we're going to go ahead and export this as the following settings. We're going to export this under custom. We're going to go ahead and choose a file name. I'm going to pick Pikachu rules, and then we're going to select the location of our file to go. After that, we're going to make sure it says individual clip. We're going to set the format to QuickTime. We're going to go ahead and set it to GoPro Cineform. We're going to set it to RGB 16-bit. And then we're going to check the alpha box. After that, we're going to add it to render queue. After we add it to render queue, we're going to start render. And boom, there we go. Our transition's ready to go. And we're going to go ahead and switch over to OBS and get this thing going. Alrighty, here we are. We're in the OBS Live Studio. If you use any other type of studio, such as Streamlabs or regular OBS, this should work the same. You're going to go to your transition tab or your scene transition. We're going to add a stinger transition. and we're going to add a new one. So we're going to press the plus sign. So we're going to actually do Stinger. We're going to do test 2 for this one, or you can name it whatever you want. So after you get here, if you want to hear what it sounds like, you can switch the monitor on, but I mean, typically people have the monitor off so they don't have to hear it, but let's go ahead and do that for the example. We're going to do this. So we're going to go ahead and do Pikachu rules. Upload this. Alrighty, so after we got that set up, we're actually going to transition back to our full screen. So we're going to go ahead and press the button and see what happens.
Pika-pee, Pikachu, Pika-pika.
Alrighty, there we go. That's how that works. Okay, so like I said, this is just part 1. So we just wanted to build our Stinger transition. The next video is going to be part 2, and we're going to talk all about plugins and move transitions and different things to make it a little bit more spicy, because having just a Stinger transition is not necessarily super flashy. It's more something everybody else has. So we're going to do a few other elements that are going to make it just that much better. Alrighty guys, that's it. So if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button down below. It lets me know that you guys are liking this content. Also, if you want to see more Stinger transition videos, please leave a comment of what type of Stinger transitions you'd like to see, and I can make it happen and show you how they work. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitch, I do stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, like I said at the beginning, at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Link down below. And as always, guys, we'll see you next time. Watch this, Jeffrey. Did I kill him? I killed him!